Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. You have to excuse the wind-blown, wet, poofy hair look. Not that anyone came to see my appearance, but I did want to give a question to you or throw something out there. What questions are you asking? What questions are you asking? I had a long conversation with a loved one earlier, and we got to chatting, and I said, what questions are you asking? Because she wasn't getting results that she wanted to get on a particular matter. And come to find out, she really wasn't asking the person the right questions. And what I mean by that is sometimes we are so eager to speak. We've not had time to really digest what the other party is saying to us, and not even just people talking to us, but when we read things. For example, who's been in math class, algebra or calculus or what have you, and knew that they needed help, but didn't even know what question to ask? I think my hand might raise up on that one. I think we can get so lost in translation that we really don't know where to begin. And so, what I mean by that is if we're not asking proper questions to get the results we're seeking, then we're lost at times. And that can be in any phase of life, on your job, parenting, marital relationships. A lot of times, just simple communication issue breakdowns will hinder growth. Okay. And so getting back to what I was explaining to her was, she was just feeling like she was in stagnant water. Nothing was going her way. A loved one or so called loved one even told her that she was an epic screw up, for lack of a better term. And I just had to differ with her. I said, well, number one, are you believing that you're an epic screw up? Because if you start believing it, you will be. I said, but you have to ask your questions. Well, what have I done to make somebody feel that way about me? Which, by the way, I don't agree with their comment. They shouldn't have said that. I think it's rude. But, you ask yourself, well, why would they make that assertion or assumption about me? Then you ask yourself, how can I maybe change course if these things that they are pointing out to me are true? That doesn't make her a screw up, though. So, like I said, I don't agree with any of that. I'm just using an example. When we want to question ourselves, what are my intentions? Why am I doing this? When we were in, what is it, fourth or fifth grade, the five W's, the who, what, when, where, and why. Then I guess they throw that H in there, that how. And so we just have to really question what we're doing, why we're doing it. And in fact, this goes, and I'm going to make a video about this at some point about self love. When you're asked to do a task, when you're, adult, of course, I'm not talking if you're 15 and your parent says clean up your room, but if you're asked to take on another task or a project, ask yourself, A, do I want to do it? B, do I have time to do it? And being that we all have the same 24 hours given in one day, we need to ask questions such as, well, what am I going to give up to take this on? Or what will it cost me, in terms of time, money, resources, management, etc. So start being questions oriented. We often will kill that or suppress that in people, particularly young people, because they'll say, "Oh, just shut up, do as I say, don't do as do, or just because I said so." And I know there may be a time and a place for that. However, when we tend to suppress that with everyone all the time, then people do not have the ability to communicate effectively with one another, whereas back and forth dialogue. For example, I'm going to pick on one of my kids. My son, he's responsible for doing trash service. He's a young man, and sometimes he'll get kind of grumpy as if he shouldn't have to do trash. And so, one day he asked me, "Hey, how come I have to do trash?" And I don't want to do it. I don't fill up all the trash cans, blah, blah, blah. So I let him do his teenage young man rant. And, I told him, I appreciate you coming to me, seeing as to why you have to do this chore, but you have to ask yourself, why am I making you do this chore? One, obviously, we need to have the trash receptacles clean. Two, it builds self discipline. Three, you are a member of the family. It helps everyone, not just you. We went on and on through this list of reasons as to why, because of some of the questions he had in his mind, because he just thought, well, I guess y'all are just being mean. I need to not have to do trash, etc., etc. And the bottom line at the end of that particular conversation was, hey, buddy, if you don't want me to mention it, take the initiative and get it done yourself without me asking, and do it well enough to where you know the inspector general, aka mom, is not going to come back and have you redo it. I've been known to do that. I will make a video about that at some point later, and maybe it'll be called Do Things Well the First Time, no matter what it is. Okay, but I'm going back to the questions we ask. So before you decide you want to make a complaint about anything, ask why. A lot of us will complain based off of perceptions, preferences, and just because maybe we have a poor attitude about something. I used to have a sign in my office that said halt, okay? And halt, HALT, stood for, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Or am I tired? Those are just four major things. You know, of course, there's more that can contribute to a poor attitude, lashing out, or just what have you, or complaints. For those of us that's Christians, I think I have this scripture taped up, and I want to say that it's Philippians 2:14. Not sure, but I used to have it just taped up on my desk because it said, "Do all things without arguing and complaining." And my kids would always come in my office, and boy, when they start at it, I point to that sign and say, "Hey, I understand you have something to tell me. However, you can get a lot of things out of me, but when you start complaining, I automatically don't listen to you as well as I would if you just made a case." And I'm talking with their tone of voice, disposition, everything. Not that I'm not going to listen to them, but it won't be as well received. And I think the same would be true for you all listening today. When people approach you in a negative, harsh tone, the roaring lion comes out. Are you able to receive that easily? Or are you kind of like, hey, what's wrong with you? You know, I told you all on my channel, I have chosen to have a good day every day. And I know a lot of you guys think that that's impossible. It's not impossible because I just got to a point where I said, I deal with too many colorful individuals, too much foolishness, and just stress of all sorts. And it's really beginning, and really not just beginning, have been affecting my health quite some time. So I said, whatever questions come my way, whatever situations come my way, I'm going to try to have a good day regardless. I might have to marinate on a thought for a minute, but at the end of the day, I'm going to choose to be happy or choose to have joy. And I think I've done a video about the difference between happiness and joy. And so, what I implore you today, I'm telling you, ask questions. Even if you're on the receiving end of this complaint, like in dealing with my kids, I think to myself, why are they coming in here acting like this? And not just for selfish reasons, like they see I'm working or what have you. Maybe they had a hard day at school. Maybe they didn't do so well on a test. Maybe they feel like their voice isn't being heard. Well, whatever the case is, everything can be situated out and sorted through without having to have volatile conversation, hostile environments, etc. That translate into the workplace, home, family, sports, etc. So again, I know I sound like a broken record here, but what questions are you asking yourself today? Are there goals that you're not making? Okay, if so, ask why. Why am I not goal setting? How come I don't have a to-do list? What is it that I'm doing that's hindering me from where I want to be? And I guess that's the, bottom line. Like when I was talking with my loved one, what's hindering you from doing what you want to do? And just, I hope she doesn't mind. Y'all don't know her, but she just mentioned, oh, I don't have a car, so I can't get to work. And, there were a few other things, and I can totally sympathize. Been there, done that. And so I said, okay, you've listed three things, and I know one was a car, one was work, and the other one was housing. She's staying with a friend. And so I said, okay, well, being that it's getting close to tax time, you should get some tax returns. So that can help increase your money or monetary situation. And maybe that can give you a boost to help put a down payment on a car or just start, moving around and doing different things. Now, if that wasn't available to her, then I would certainly say, hey, how can you hustle up? Again, we're asking questions here. How can you hustle and make some money pretty quick? Do you clean? Do you have a nursing certificate like a CNA? Can you do anything with the skill set you currently have to make something happen? We even talked about where she was living with a friend. There's a bus route. And where we live in the Midwest, people just don't really walk anywhere. They really don't take buses, etc. It's car and everything, not very active. And so, anyway, I just mentioned to her, I know that's inconvenient and it may not be your preference, but preferences don't matter. You got to hustle up, get what you need to do. And thirdly, we talked about housing and how they could come up with various situations and just make things happen. And she's in a pretty dire situation. And so, I suggested there's even programs such as the Section 8 housing program that can be good if you get with the right landlord that's not a slumlord. I personally have a lot of experience from that from my personal business. But anyway, my thing was I just showed her, see, don't just talk about what's not going well. Don't just talk about what other people said about you. That's their business. If they want to call you a failure, okay, maybe it's because they're one and they want to project that onto you. But failure isn't final. Anytime we have an obstacle, it's just a process to help build us and strengthen us. We all know from PE class that when we wanted to get a little bit of muscle on us, what did we have to do? We had to work out every day. It hurt. We got sore when those muscles started to tear and we felt that soreness. But guess what? Every day we pushed through, we got better, we got more muscular, more endurance, etc. It's the same thing here. Start asking yourselves the right questions, okay? I'll try to come up with a link or maybe even a checklist at some point of questions to ask yourself. Self evaluation is huge because there's something that my mom used to always say to us, and she would say, know thyself. Okay. And to know thyself is pretty hard because sometimes you might not like what you get. Sometimes you'll love what you get. Might be 50-50. Who knows? But when you know who you are, it matters. It's nothing wrong with asking questions. Okay. Now, I'm not saying interrogate everybody that walks through, but interrogate yourself. Start here first. Start with your own self first, and then you can be more effective out into the community, out into whatever spheres you have influence upon. Okay, so be of good cheer today, everyone. Be encouraged. We are not epic failures just because we had a little rough patch of life. Our setbacks, they can definitely be stepping stones for comebacks. And you are ready to come back. You are special. You are loved. You are God's wonderful creation. No matter what anybody has to say to you, you are special. Okay. Just the probability of you even being here is a miracle. So, to all of you guys that feel lost, feel stuck, feel uncertain, ask questions, ask them, write them down, type them out, do whatever you have to do, mull over them, pray about it, meditate about it, try to become solutions oriented. We're not going to lay down in defeat. Okay. So you guys can see I'm a little hyped up. Again, this Midwest wind's got my hair here, there, and everywhere. But I just thought this message was important enough. My concern is you guys. Okay. Making sure that you're wonderful, that you're okay. I don't care about all this fanciness. So maybe one of you wonderful YouTube stylists to come to Midwest and help me out one of these days. But until then, you guys be blessed. Ask the tough questions, okay? And you will just be so thrilled when you get the results that you know you deserve. Be blessed.